that. Across the line goes our now last place driver Will Powell, but being closely followed by those at the front with less than 2 minutes to go. Guy Cunnington is still leading the way, but that gap has been reduced by Tom Adams, the number 17, who is looking racy out there. Alex Eads in second position. Fastest lap does still belong to Oakley Pryor though. He's in fifth and just 0.45 seconds behind Collings. Perhaps he will be looking at that fourth place as a possibility. Across the line come Poulin and Hawkwood with Powell, and then Guy Cunnington, Tom Adams and Alex Eads all across the line. There's not much between the three of those drivers with 1 minute and 15 seconds left. To those of you on the stream, just quick apologies. The stream just died for some reason or another, but hopefully up and running once again. Hopefully enjoying the racing here. We are on race number 5, Junior Max at the moment, with less than a minute to go. Guy Cunnington across the line, confirming he is still in the race lead, but Tom Adams and Alex Eads not far behind now. Each of them less than 3/10 apart from one another. And going down onto the Sturmey Straight once more for what could be the penultimate time here. It won't be actually, they'll definitely make it round at least one more time. Around Buttons and into the top bend. Could this be an opportunity, the back markers, to make up a bit of time for Guy Cunnington, who might be beginning to sweat with Tom Adams and Alex Eads really heaping on the pressure. Oakley Pryor overtaken Matthew Collings on that previous lap, by the way. So that's a change of position. Pryor moving up the order, as he so often does. A ruthless driver out there on the circuit, and the timer has hit 0. The next lap will be the final lap, and last opportunity for the drivers to improve on their positions. That's exactly what Alex Eads does. He is up into second place and trying to catch up to Guy Cunnington, who's under pressure but hasn't got so much time left to defend that lead, so he will be optimistic he can still hold on to that race lead till the end. But it is Eads versus Cunnington, who takes a very defensive line now. Cunnington looking ever racy, and Tom Adams just watching on to see if he can carve his own opportunity out of any mistakes made by the top two drivers, but I don't think it's going to happen. Cunnington is looking good for his first win of the season, and out of the top end they come, down towards the checkered flag, and it is a win in the first race of the day for Guy Cunnington, who was under pressure at the end there. A lot of pressure as he wins by just 0.16 of a second, so just over a tenth separating himself and Alex Eads. Tom Adams in third. Fourth is Oakley Pryor, with fifth Matthew Collings in the end. He might be disappointed with that result, as the number 57 of Lewis Halliday finishes in 6th. 7th goes to Anchi Stenning, with Tin and Rourke in 8th. 9th, James Crossley and Michael Salmon in 10th. Next up is the last of the first heats for round 1 of the 2018 season. It's the 177 Max and 177 Masters, their first race of the day. We have 14 drivers out there on the circuit, and hopefully some great racing to ensue between these drivers, excuse me, who are hoping to get their season going, get those valuable championship points in order to seal that championship by the end of the year. And of these 14 drivers, who will be able to come out on top? So several pretty fast drivers out there on the circuit, and it'll be hard to really predict at this stage. Sam Winter was very quick at the back end of last season though, number 77, and Marcus Basley holding that number 5 number plate. Those could be 2 drivers we could really watch out there on the circuit, but we will see. Unpredictable in this sport, and out of the top end they come now on their way towards the start line where the lights go out, and we will begin 8 minutes of racing for our final first heat of the day. And we do get underway now. We are racing. They can break formation as soon as those lights go out, of course, as opposed to last year where they had to stay either side of those yellow tram lines in the middle of the circuit. But it looks like each of the drivers has managed to file their way around Billy's blind and onto the Sturby straight for the first time, down towards the hairpin. And it looks like our leader was our pole sitter, Basley, still holding that position as things stand, although I stand to be corrected. It looks like as the number 17 has got himself, what is it, the 17, got himself into an early lead there. Not quite sure what happened to Basley, but could just be my eyesight. That is particularly poor. As they come out of the first lap and onto the second, it is Daniel Milner who is in the lead of the race, with Charlie Wally, not quite sure how to say that, in second position, gaining 5 positions at on the first lap, I should say. Marcus Basley without such a good start, and Sam Winter in 4th maintains his position. Darren Worley in 5th, 6th goes to Joe Walmsley at the moment, with Samuel Dix in 7th, 8th goes to Josh Hopkins, with Lee Holt in 9th, and 10th Ian Brown with a fairly poor start, losing 5 positions in the first lap there. But Charlie Worley in the lead after just a couple of laps, so fantastic start from him, 6 positions in just 2 laps. And Marcus Basley in 2nd position, really trying to get that position back. They've both overtaken Milner again, who was briefly into the lead at the end of lap 1. Sam Winter maintaining that 4th place, hasn't lost or gained any positions so far in this race, and he will be looking to, of course, build upon that form which gave him so many impressive results at the end of last season. As I say, was really on fire, creating result after result, month after month from the end of last season. Sam Winter, we're hoping to build upon that in the first round of this season. Having another look around the inside, very aggressive from the off, Marcus Basley on Worley. And they do touch there, a slight nudge from the number 5 on Worley, who does have to concede that position though, and he's down to 2nd place now. Out of the top end they come, and on to the start-finish straight once again. Number 17 of Daniel Milner still maintaining 3rd position, as 4th place goes to Sam Winter. Darren Worley in 5th, 6th place is Samuel Dix at the moment, with Josh Hopkins, Joe Walmsley in 7th and 8th, Lee Holt and Elliot Herbert rounding up the top 10 after 4 laps. Coming up to 3 minutes being gone though. Marcus Basley, despite a poor start, has got himself back into the lead of the race, reclaiming those positions off of both Worley and Milner, both of whom sit in 2nd and 3rd respectively. Across the line now goes Darren Worley and Samuel Dix, having a battle of their own for 5th position, but we look at the top 4 perhaps as the main competitors in this one, and particularly Marcus Basley, who, having reclaimed those positions, is looking fairly comfortable in the lead of the race, and with the fastest lap as well, a 35.79. His closest competitor, Charlie Worley, is 36.09 in comparison, so a fair amount slower in terms of personal bests. Other drivers have got beneath the 36-second mark though, but only Daniel Milner and our race leader Marcus Basney have fit into that category. But it is looking good for the number 5, with coming up to halfway through the race. 4 minutes gone and 4 to go. Looking to heat up a bit between Charlie Worley and Daniel Milner, who has managed to catch up over the past couple of laps there, closing in by 0.14 of a second on that previous lap. And the number 77 of Sam Winter still looking on at that battle, 0.62 behind, but unable to close that gap as things stand. Out of the S's and onto the Sturmies once more. Looks like Worley has managed to open up that gap though once again, slightly between himself and Milner. Chris Spry has gone into the pits meanwhile, the number 16. Not quite sure where he was on the circuit, but Peter Lockett, that does mean, is last place at the moment, the novice in the number 80 kart today. Two minutes to go then. It's looking good for Marcus Basley in the lead of the race. He's got the fastest lap. He's got more than 2 seconds to play with. Back to Daniel Milner, who has managed to overtake Worley though. I didn't see that manoeuvre happen, but he had been catching up over the past few laps, and now he does make that move, and Sam Winter's right on the back as well, and potentially he'll be looking at getting himself into the top 3 by the end of this race. Started in 4th, has remained 4th for the entirety of this race, and now is looking to try and improve upon that, as the number 56 of Charlie Worley might have to go defensive as we close in on the latter stages of the race. And was that a manoeuvre there? And it looks like those two have swapped around indeed, so slightly strange one into Billy's. Both of them went slightly wide into the sort of entrance of the corner, it looked like, but Sam Winter does manage to make that move, and he's up into 3rd place as they both get past the back marker of Alex Dyson, who is currently in 12th position, and now a lap behind the race leaders. Across the line go Winter and Worley then in 3rd and 4th, and already that's 0.6 of a second separate the two, so it seems that is where they're meant to be on pace. And Winter now will, I'm sure, settle for a 3rd place. Winter We get underway very shortly then with the second round of heats. Honda cadets take to the track once more for their second heat of 3. Each of the classes having 3 heats out there today. I'm slightly surprised, to be honest, that the Hondas don't have 4. There's a lot of drivers out there on the circuit, 25 to be exact. And they will be looking to try and get as many points as possible to give them as good a grid position as possible for the final later on. Race number 19, certainly one to look out for as we do get underway with the Honda cadets for their second heat of the day. Roman Nikolai versus Maximilian Solarski on the front row. And several cars caught up, a couple into the barriers there after, well, just getting together, colliding at Billy's blind. Only one driver having to get out of the kart and try to regain his position back on the circuit. So a bit of a messy start from 4 or 5 of the drivers. Another spinner there, and another, the number 67 at the horseshoe. But drivers sliding everywhere at after just half a lap or so. But seems the main group of karts have all managed to file their way around the circuit and do go across the line now. Seems there's no problems for the first 15 or so who all managed to get around the first lap unscathed, but 10 or so drivers who will not be happy and will be trying now, of course, to gain as many positions as they can before the end of this race. Good to happen, I suppose, at the start of the race. The sort of positive to that is there's as much time as possible in order to try and reclaim those positions that they lost after a pretty untidy first lap of round 2. But all 25 karts do still remain. So, check on who is leading this race. It was Alistair Cresswell versus Theo McCorris after the first lap, and it is now McCorris into the lead of the race. Cresswell down into second with Mitchell Gibbons and Jez Williams third and fourth. Fifth, Edward Pearson with Maximilian Solarski in sixth. Seventh, Colin Wasney with Hugh Moulton, Sonny Smith and Ethan Simmons rounding out the top 10 after 2 laps. Sonny Smith gaining 5 positions there, and it suddenly just began to snow out of nowhere. I wasn't aware that was in the forecast, but there we go. That was pretty unpredictable conditions, and now those karts will really struggle with grip when that starts to come down, and we could start seeing karts spinning left, right and centre if this should continue. But it seems like it was just a pretty short burst, was it? It's already calmed down slightly, but our first bout of slightly different weather to experience for these drivers out there on the track today, and changing weather conditions are never what a driver wants to see. Already that snow has turned into sort of light rain that's lashing on my commentary box window, but that's going to have a big effect on the pace of the karts. That much is for certain, as Alistair Cresswell does lead this race as things stand. The slippery conditions flag was out, that yellow and red striped flag, warning the drivers of these conditions. Very unusual conditions, I have to say. Cresswell does lead the way, though, in a peculiar race, as the number 74 of Theo McCorris leads Mitchell Gibbons in the battle for second, with 4.5 minutes to go. The snow continues. Some of the drivers may prefer these conditions, and we'll see if these conditions do continue, which of those drivers do thrive in strange conditions, and maybe they love the tactic side of karting, deciding what tyres to put on the kart. And when this snow continues, we'll see in upcoming races whether drivers are going to opt for wets, or, well, at the moment it has to be wets, doesn't it? Looking at the circuit and the snow which continues to fall. I haven't seen snow in a number of years, I don't think, so it's only a particularly strange occurrence here. It's beginning to really come now, and these drivers out there on the circuit, they can't seek cover like the spectators on the side of it. 3 minutes and 10 seconds left on the clock. Cresswell leads, but the gap might be completely irrelevant because each of these drivers struggling with pace so much. With a click of a finger, they could be spun around. Race winner last time out, Sonny Smith, is currently occupying 7th position, with Mikoris finishing 2nd, and currently is in 2nd now in the 2nd of the heats. Actually, he might have just been overtaken there into 3rd. It's unusual to say overtaken when it looks like the drivers are not opting past sort of walking pace at the moment around some of the corners, and who can blame them? Conditions like this on slicks are not optimal whatsoever, and that snow is just getting stronger out there. So strange. You can't imagine it will set that much, but it could be proved otherwise. 2 minutes to go, and drivers around the circuit, I'm sure, will be considering the options of other tyres and other setups to optimise the performance of the car to their upcoming races. 1 minute and 45 seconds left on the clock for the karts to potter their way around the circuit, and in conditions like this, there is no overestimating how difficult it is. The grip is next to non-existent, I'd imagine, as well, particularly on slicks, and particularly on new slicks for the Honda Cadets out here. Admittedly, the tyres don't have such a massive effect on the Honda Cadets as they do on the senior classes. They only have 2 a season, so they are designed for more longevity. A couple of karts have taken to the pit lane. Jez Williams and Marcus Luzio have both retired from this race. But over 7 minutes gone, so less than 1 to go. And there's a change as Kukuro Yimans gets past Solarski. A change for 5th. But Cresswell still on his way to his first victory of the day. Almost thicker snow beginning to come down now. Certainly an unusual one. I'm not sure I've ever commentated on a race in which it has been snowing at the same time, but there we are. No time left on the clock, so the next lap will be the final one, and then it remains to be seen what the gap between this race and the next race might be, because the officials might deem it unsafe to go out, and a kart does hit the tyre wall there. The number 76, that is Adam Nikolai, was occupying 18th position, but just lost control of the kart slightly, takes out the tyre wall at the end of the right side of the pit straight. That's a couple of tyres out there on the grass. That was very risky stuff, but last lap now for the leading few drivers. The number 31, Alistair Cresswell, does seem to have a healthy lead. Or does he? Because Pearson actually only 0.36 behind. Perhaps he's actually managed to get into the lead of this race. It's actually becoming quite difficult to see. The visibility pretty poor, but looks like that is indeed the case. So Pearson up into the lead. Mitchell Gibbons in 3rd meanwhile, so Mikoris down into 4th place, just falling out of the top 3, which would be his first time in which he hasn't finished inside the top 3. As they come across the line in bizarre conditions, it is Edward Pearson who takes the win from Alistair Cresswell. Theo McCorris just about gets his way up into the top 3 once again as Mitchell Gibbons takes 4th. 5th goes to Kukuru Yeomans with Solarski in 6th. 7th will go to Heat 1 winner Sonny Smith as Holly Woolley in 8th. Colin Wasney in 9th. Oh, it's actually Archie Walker who finishes his race in 9th. Cameron Crockett in 10th. And looks like 11th place will go to Wasney then, with Ewan Charman in 12th. And Lewis Spires in 13th. 14th, Ethan Simmons. And a bizarre race comes to a conclusion. The next up will be the Miami Cadets, but they might have to change a few things on the kart before they take to the circuit. 11 laps, that's one of the fewest lap totals I've seen since the Alpha Timing era began a few seasons ago. And it's no surprise considering the conditions. It was snowing, then it was raining, then it was snowing, and it's almost completely ceased again as the race has now finished, but a large cloud looms on the circuit, but blue skies around the outside of it, so almost impossible to predict the weather, as is so frequently in this country, but particularly apparently today, which is not what the drivers want out there for their racing. They want to just set up the kart and have a good race, but that might not be the case now, as several sections of the circuit look more than a bit slippery, and we remain to see how the next few races will pan out. Miami Cadets are out on track then, ready to get underway with their second race of the season. Let's see if this race is any quicker than the previous one, because ever changing conditions make for some very difficult driving out there for the drivers. Across the line they go now, and the 8 minutes of racing begins for these drivers as they go down to a, let's not say particularly grippy looking Billy's Blind, and on a skiddy surface make their way onto the Sturmey Straight for the first time. Ben Crossley was second place after the last race, with Macaulay Bishop taking the eventual win. Those two swapped around several times in that race, especially at Billy's Blind. Let's see if we'll see a repeat of that here. Out of the top end for the first time come each of the 7 drivers, well, mainly the top 6, and one of the drivers struggling in these conditions, I think it is the novice of Freddie Baker, so it's easy to understand why you would be cautious in these trying conditions for these young drivers. The Miami cadets out on the circuit. Of course, the evolution of the Coma cadets, which were pretty popular a few years back. Never quite Honda cadet popularity, but Miami cadet has seen the numbers drop off pretty considerably. And hopefully this evolution will lead and pathway to the future of Miami Cadet Racing. Leo Purchase leads the way. He came third, I think, in heat number 1, seeking his first victory, and Ben Crossley likewise. He's in second position though, and is being chased by Macaulay Bishop. Those two had a fair old squabble last time out. Let's see if we will see more of the same as they make their way around the horseshoe. Excuse me. Now to the top end, number 71 Leo Purchase, who at the moment has got a considerable lead, and it doesn't look like it's being closed down by Ben Crossley, who now is over 3 seconds already behind the race leader, 1.2 seconds slower than Purchase previous lap there. Pretty interesting that the number 71 almost seems to prefer these conditions. 47.02 was the lap time he set, compared to Ben Crossley's 48.23. Macaulay Bishop was faster than Crossley though, and he will be looking to try and finish ahead of Crossley for 2 races in a row. Crossley followed by Bishop and Hadley across the line. Second, third and fourth. Daniel Thorne is in 5th, with Alexander Senna in no man's land. What has happened to Senna? The number 76, he hasn't crossed the line. Well, he has now, just coming across the line there, setting a 58.82, so evidently has had a spin or something, losing 10 seconds. But Freddie Baker up into 6th, that means. He's repping it out there for the novices. Leo Purchase across the line in the lead of the race, and leads by 5 seconds over Ben Crossley. That gap is a absolutely huge one, considering that Crossley isn't closing in and is losing actually around a second every lap to the race leader, and it's looking good for Purchase to go on and claim his first victory of the day. And despite the amount of time left, 3.5 minutes, you still say that with a fair amount of certainty. Macaulay Bishop in 3rd place, meanwhile, is looking on and trying to have a look at overtaking Ben Crossley, but over a second behind. He's dropped off too. He is also struggling with pace. Once again, slightly slower than Crossley is 3rd placed Bishop, each of the drivers slower than the driver in front of them. Means that the field does just begin to disperse and open up. Less than 3 minutes left to go. Of the second heat for the Miami Cadets here in the February meeting. A chilly February first round of the year at Clay Pigeon, which has had its fair amount of good close racing and changing conditions already. And we haven't even got to the third round of heats yet. But this race isn't looking quite as close. Each of the drivers are dropping off from one another, except for Bishop, who did manage to close in slightly on second place Ben Crossley on that previous lap, but that gap still is not very close, over 1.1 seconds between Crossley and Bishop in that battle for second. One and a half minutes left to go. Minimax are out now then, and they're getting ready to go for their second heat of the day, following the second heat of the Miami Cadet, which eventually Leo Purchase went on to win. Reese Hurd starts in the number 24 on pole alongside Ollie Tyler. Looks like they will be going around once again. I suspected they might do so, considering not all of the karts had joined on the grid there. Looks like a problem for one of the drivers. Is that indeed the number 24 of Hurd, who did have a pole start here? I'm not quite sure. Looks like it could well be. Or is he just waiting for the rest of the pack and then we'll get underway when they join? If that is the case, then it's not looking good for the acceleration part of things, but looks like could be an early retirement without even reaching the start line for Reese Hurd. So disappointing for the youngster, but it looks like then that's going to mean Joshua Whittington Couch perhaps is going to be our pole sitter. I'm told to slow down, but I think they are going to get underway this lap. And now away we do go with 8 minutes of the second heat for the Minimax race number 9 today. Almost blinding the track down at Billy's Blind for me, but as they make their way round there onto the Sturmey Straight for the first time, the majority of karts, our main field of karts, do make their way around unscathed and into the hairpin. Now exiting that and onto that short segment between the hairpin and the horseshoe. The number 41 does lead the way. That is Ollie Tyler ahead of Joshua Whittington Couch. Seven minutes still to go, with just over a lap gone, and Ollie Tyler does lead the way then in the number 41. Callum Voisin in second place. Marcus Littlewood with a fantastic start, finding his way up into third then. And well, he's been pretty brilliant today, hasn't he? The number 12 of Littlewood had fantastic racing in the first heat. Didn't quite get into the top 2 in the end though, if I remember correctly. It was Ethan Leader and Sean Cuss. Indeed, those two were the top 2. 6 minutes and 10 seconds still to go. A long time left in this one, as Ollie Tyler leads the way from the front row. Marcus Littlewood, his closest competitor. Callum Voisin in third. Charlie Knight in fourth. Fifth place currently belonging to Masaj Hamera. Joshua Whittington Couch in the number 99 in sixth. Seventh is Harry James with Elias Pulio in eighth. Ninth, Sean Cuss. 10th is George Walker with race winner in heat number 1, Ethan Leader in 11th place then. So perhaps struggling with the conditions, or just having a difficult race for whatever reason. Now, he hasn't quite nailed the setup on this occasion, Ethan Leader, but is certainly not so far up the field as he's used to. As the race leaders come out of the top end and down towards the start-finish line, completing their 4th lap now. Marcus Littlewood in the lead of the race, so the number 41 of Ollie Tyler having to concede that position. He's now down into 2nd place, but the 3rd placed kart of Callum Voisin is 1 second and 35 behind. So hopefully that will be something to build on for Ollie Tyler. Try and reclaim the race lead. across the line once again. 4 minutes and 15 seconds left to go. Completing their 5th lap, each of these drivers entering their 6th, and Marcus Littlewood in the race lead isn't having too many issues at the moment. He's got the race lead, is opening up the lead lap by lap. Had over a second to play with at the end of the previous lap, and you suspect that's only going to grow. Out of the top bend now come the top few drivers, and they will be on their way to completing their 6th lap. It doesn't seem the trying conditions have bothered these drivers too much. They've raced very competently and professionally out here on the circuit. No one more so than Marcus Littlewood, who does lead the way with the fastest lap as well, a 42.85, and no other driver has managed to get beneath the 43.3 mark. Oh no, one other driver actually, 43.26, set by Charlie Knight, but it goes to show that's nearly 4 tenths quicker than any other driver. Marcus Littlewood, in fact it is 4 tenths quicker than any other driver. Charlie Knight is 4.5 tenths quicker than Ollie Tyler's 43.31, which he set on lap 3. So Littlewood absolutely dominating proceedings out there, with over 2 seconds is his advantage, which you suspect he's only going to build on rather than have taken away from him by Ollie Tyler. Callum Voisin meanwhile is closing in on the number 41 in 2nd place. Perhaps there could be a change for 2nd by the end of this race potentially, with Charlie Knight as well on the back of Voisin. So we look to the battle for 2nd place. Perhaps that will give us a guide as to who is the next quickest driver to Marcus Littlewood, whether they will be able to offer any threat potentially in Heat 3, and then the final later on. Final for the Minimax will be race number 21. One and a half minutes left to go. Ollie Tyler in 2nd, 3rd Charlie Knight, and Callum Voisin now into 4th. So that is a change for 3rd then. Those 2 drivers were looking likely that they could be potentially involved in an exchange of positions, and indeed that has happened. Knight now on his way to trying to close the gap between himself and Tyler, who is in 2nd, was 0.95 seconds up the road at the end of lap 9, but now that gap has opportunity to shorten. Out of the top end come these drivers then. Marcus Littlewood absolutely into the distance, far away from these drivers. 0.2 seconds quicker on that previous lap. And they do get across the line before the clock hits 0, so this will be the penultimate lap now, and Marcus Littlewood must have been tempted to sit and wait a second or two just to get across the line and have a lap to go, because he's got that much of a margin to play with. Perhaps might have been under a fair amount of pressure if he had done so, but will have to race for another lap at least. Number 43 of Charlie Knight still fending off him from reclaiming that position which he took from him, but Ollie Tyler up the road. Hasn't been pressured as much as maybe I was expecting when Charlie Knight overtook Voisin. I thought that potentially he could catch up to Ollie Tyler and maybe a three-way battle for second was going to ensue, but it seems that Tyler perhaps is going to be able to hold on to second place without too much stress here. Littlewood in the lead though. He's got over 4 seconds, his advantage back to Ollie Tyler, who is beginning to get under some pressure from Charlie Knight. Certainly Voisin is going to finish 4th, but as they come out of the horseshoe and into Buttons, he did get alongside there, his nose cone, and out they come of the top bend. And could there be an opportunity? It looks like he's done it as they go across the line now. He has indeed, so brilliant manoeuvre there by Charlie Knight right at the death. He managed to claim at that position and does take second in the end from Ollie Tyler. Cruelest way for Ollie Tyler to concede that position right at the end, just getting forced out wide. But he does have to settle for 3rd as Callum Voisin takes 4th. 5th goes to Masay Shamera. 6th, Joshua Whittington Couch, Harry James, Sean Cuss, Ellis Pulio, and George Walker rounding out the top 10. Ethan Leader finishing in 12th despite winning heats number 1. Race 10 now. It's the Senior Max second heat. They'll be underway as soon as the lights go out. On the front row is the number 21 of James Moorcroft, and they do get underway now. He's had a pretty decent start, but does get pushed out wide slightly on Billy's blind there. Was that Bradley Gill or Liam Rabjohns who came flying down the inside and managed to make the most of having that inside line? Really grab that opportunity by the scruff of the neck, and Liam Rabjohns now does lead the way. I think indeed he's about to get past though by the number 26. That is Steve Bell into the lead of the race. Wasn't really anywhere to be seen in heat number 1. He didn't have a fantastic start, but does manage to get away pretty well this time, that's for sure, in the lead of the race, and Bradley Gill is in second place. Third goes to James Moorcroft at the end of lap 1, with the E-plated Tommy Foster in fourth, who didn't even start heat number 1 for whatever reason. We've got some points to make up, and Liam Rabjohns in 5th. 6th is Gabriel Abbott with Jem Hepworth in 7th. Charlie Bruce White in 8th. 9th is Amelia Vincent with Derek Hunt in 10th, losing 3 positions off of the start. And let's see how Bruce White does, because he won very comfortably in heat number 1, and now he has got some proper work to do. He started on pole, and you can argue that's one of the hardest jobs to do anyway, maintaining not only the concentration but the pace of the kart up and not letting any of the drivers get past at the start and from there on. But Bruce White has got to make progress through the field if he wants to win 2 out of 2, and you suspect that that is going to be a far taller order for him than to take 2 wins out of 2 if he had just been starting towards the front of the grid again. Seems the track is beginning to dry out slightly though. We haven't had any rain or snow for a little while now, over half an hour, so should mean that hopefully this track can begin to dry out and the drivers can get on slicks and become a little bit faster again. But Charlie Bruce White overtaking James Moorcroft, the pole sitter. That's a change for 6th there on that previous lap, with Gabriel Abbott and Liam Rabjohn swapping positions as well. 4th and 5th changes. And it's all looking good for Steve Bell at the front, the number 26, who, as I said, I'm not sure he's a predictable winner coming into this race. I don't mean that, no offence at all to Steve Bell, but he didn't have a fantastic first heat. Obviously these conditions are absolutely suiting him to a T, and a very experienced, competent driver does lead the way ahead of Bradley Gill as well, 3.7 seconds, so absolutely dominating proceedings at the front of the field. But Gill in second position, he's nearly 4 seconds behind, and I'm sure probably will be 4 seconds behind come the end of this next lap. But across the line now comes Ari Barker. Jordan Brightman West is soon to follow, but here comes Steve Bell across the line. Coming up to halfway through the race now. Tommy Foster's up into second. He's got past Bradley Gill now, who was looking not so pacey over the last few laps. Abbott up into 4th with 5th Charlie Bruce White. Liam Rabjohns having to concede a position down into 6th now. Derek Hunt's overtaken Amelia Vincent as well. That's a change for 9th. They are the only changes on the circuit as we hit halfway through this race. 4 minutes to go. Steve Bell across the line once more. He's going to have another huge gap. 3.78 of a second, but Tommy Foster has been closing in, and Foster will be looking for his first win, of course, having not been able to compete in the first one. Second heat he sets 3 personal bests, so absolutely flying Tommy Foster. Leads Bradley Gill. Abbott, Bruce White and Rabjohns all fairly close together. No out of the 4th, which you suspect Bruce White is soon going to take a hold of. Here comes Gabriel Abbott, followed by Charlie Bruce White. The gap less than half a second, and that could be one that's about to change. Blue flags out for one of the drivers. I think it's Ari Barker. Jordan Brightman West has pulled into the pits meanwhile, so 11 drivers remain out there on the circuit. Bell across the line with 4 seconds still his advantage. Back to Tommy Foster with Bradley Gill in third, fourth Gabriel Abbott, and fifth Charlie Bruce White. It's probably the largest period of time in which there hasn't been an overtake for Bruce White. But despite Bruce White catching up on Abbott, Abbott is as well catching up on Bradley Gill. So Gill could be in some real trouble here with just under a minute and a half to go. He might have to get defensive because he is under some real pressure now. He might have to lose that third place if he doesn't hold on. That's exactly what is going to happen. The number 34 just ahead of the number 67 of Abbott at the moment, with Bruce White looming behind. And out they come of the top end. Down towards Billy's blind. Doesn't look like any movement's going to happen this time by. Out of Billy's now and on to the S's. Still looking good for Bradley Gill. He's not deploying all defensive duties as of yet, but Bruce White now goes up the inside of Gabriel Abbott. Looks like he's going to make that move, is he? Abbott's just forced out wide, puts a tyre on the grass, but that's not Bruce White's fault. He left him the room to come back onto the circuit. But Bruce White is up into fourth though, and Bradley Gill now could be under even more pressure as that third place is looking less and less likely. Despite still having 10 seconds left on the clock, he's got to do some serious defending between now and the end of the race, which is going to be in 2 laps time. It's looking absolutely rosy for Steve Bell at the front though, having no such troubles. He's leading by 3.4 seconds, and despite being caught up by half a second on that previous lap by Tommy Foster, he's still got that much of a huge lead as Bruce White has overtaken Bradley Gill now, and that's an overtake which boosts him into the top 3. Bradley Gill unfortunately has to miss out, and he's down into fourth. Here they come towards the start-finish line once again. Last lap board now out for these drivers as Bruce White leads the way in the battle for third. But it is going to be a win for Steve Bell, there's no doubt about it, with Tommy Foster in second place. Into the horseshoe go the top 2, and Tommy Foster sets the fastest lap of the race a couple of laps ago, 41.34 compared to the 41.47 of Steve Bell. He is quicker, and he has been catching up over the last few laps, but there was just too much of a gap to surpass, and Steve Bell wins comfortably in the end. Tommy Foster has to settle for second. Charlie Bruce White will take third though, after a brilliant progression through this race, with Bradley Gill in fourth. Fifth goes to Gabriel Abbott, with Liam Rabjohns in sixth. Seventh goes to James Moorcroft. Eighth, Jem Hepworth, who has a mixed debut into the senior Rotax. Derek Hunt will conclude his race in ninth, and 10th will be Emilia Vincent, with Ari Barker having not completed 13 laps. is the second heat for the Junior Max. Now race number 11, their second heat of the day, will be underway right now, and Bradley Watt starts alongside Harry Holland on the front row. Let's see how they do undergo with very contrasting conditions now, as they were to heat number 1, where it was cold, sure, but a lot drier, and now their grip will have deteriorated considerably. The tyres, of course, having cooled back down after the first heat as well, but the number 71 isn't having too many issues. Bradley Watts from pole leads the way, and coming across the line very shortly to complete his first lap, we will see that Bradley Watt has not had too many issues off of the front row, but the number 56 of Tin Rourke has made considerable progress up into second, with James Crossley as well gaining 4 to get into third, gaining 4 positions as well. Lewis Halliday, he's up into 5th, and Bailey Voisin and Matthew Collins getting their way into the top 10 after just 1 lap. It was Cunnington who won heat number 1, and now he's in 6th position. Started in 5th, so actually not making progress. Might surprise Guy Cunnington. I'm sure he'll be back on the case very soon and looking to try and claim 2 wins out of 2. Bradley Watts is in the lead of this race still, maintains that position as James Crossley and Tin Rourke swap positions for 2nd and 3rd. Likewise do Lewis Halliday and Harry Holland for 4th and 5th. Stenning is up into 6th, Pryor in 7th, Cunnington falls to 8th, so not enjoying these conditions so much perhaps the number 7. Two minutes gone, and it's looking good in these early stages for Bradley Watts. James Crossley is looking racy in behind. Now that gap is 0.9 of a second. Tin Rourke is in 3rd. Lewis Halliday is in 4th. Currently, none of the drivers occupying the top 3 finished in the top 3 last time out. And indeed, those 3 are 7th, 10th and 11th, so they're not far off each other. And Alex Eads, who came 2nd last time out, is currently 2nd out of that battle of Cunnington, Eads and Adams, which became a real talking point in the previous race. Now coming out of the top corner now though, we could very well witness a new podiums, or maybe even 3 of them.